everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and I've got a fun and quick and easy project for you today. So let's look at this little quilt behind me. Isn't this fun? Just a little wall hanging, and this is something for us, for our little sewing room, and it really is as quick and easy as it looks. So to make this quilt, what you're going to need is one packet of 5-inch squares. That's 42 5-inch squares, and we have used this cute red and white line. This is from Kingsley for Bird Brain Designs for Maywood, and you're just going to need one of those. You're going to need a little piece, this center piece right here, and it calls for about a half a yard. Really, it's about 13 inches or so. This piece right here, we took out of the border piece, and for that, you're going to need about 3/4 of a yard of fabric. And a little bit for your back. Let's see what we got on the back here. Same one. And this is fun because this is all sewing notions. I don't know if you can see that, but it's all sewing notions and fun things. And even the quilting on this is sewing notions. So take a look. You can see here's the little rotary cutter, the spool of thread, the little scissors, because I was doing this because I wanted it for a sewing room wall hanging for mine. So the whole thing is sewing notions, and that makes it kind of fun. So you're also going to need a little bit of Heat N Bond, and probably enough. The cutout that we're using on this comes on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, so that's the size you're going to need for your Heat N Bond, and also the size you'll need for your red. So let me go ahead and show you how to do this. So what we're going to do first is we're going to lay out our charm pack. Now for some people this is the most difficult part because you want your lights and darks evenly spread around. When I sewed this one together, there happened to be almost equal number of lights and darks, so I just sewed them 2 by 2, and I picked a light and I picked a dark, and I sewed them together like this, 1/4 inch right down that side, and I sewed them together in rows of 6. You're going to have 7 rows of 6, and then what you're going to do is you're going to put them in rows like this, and then you're going to save 1 row out. This row right here is the one that goes along the top here, and then you're going to sew 6 rows together in a piece that's like this. All right? Now your background fabric is going to be a piece like this, and it's going to be trimmed off to be the same size as your little panel is, and you'll just want to measure your panel and make sure what size that is. And then we're going to actually do some curved piecing. So you see right here how we did this? We just did that for a little ooh-ah effect. You don't have to do it unless you want to, but it's really easy. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Let me clear some of this stuff off here. All right, what you're going to do is you're going to lay your pieces both right sides up. So this one goes right sides up like this, and you decide which part you want to be your top. And then you're going to lay this on here right sides up. Now you don't want to overlap it except just enough so that you can curve. And we're going to do a gentle curve, and I'm actually going to move this out here just a little bit, and then I'm just going to roughly trim this off right here. I'm not even going to use a ruler. I'm just going to cut off this extra, squared that up so it's not too much. I don't have too much extra to play with. And then I can see through my fabric. I can see this other piece here. Now, to be 100% honest, this is always a little scary for me. because what happens if, you know? And now the nice thing is that if I completely ruin this, it's 1 row of 6-inch squares, and we can just put another one back together. But we're just going to go slow and easy and do a real gentle curve. And so I'm just going to start here, and I can see through the fabric, I can see where the end of my piece is here, the end of my square underneath. You know, I'm overlapping it just about 3 or 4 inches, 3.5 maybe. And so I'm just going to start here, and I'm going to do a real gentle curve. None of this stuff, just a real gentle curve. And so I'm just going to start here. Everybody holding their breath? Me too. All right, we're just going to go here. Slow and easy. Let's make sure this stays nice and flat. And right here. And then I got to scoot this down. I don't know why there's so much fear with cutting fabric, and it's like, it's all right, it's going to be fine. All right, there we go. Oh, I'm going to go off. All right, now this piece here, we're going to toss, and this little piece under here, we are also going to toss. Now this piece, see how this is just going to lay right in here real nice because we cut them together? So what we're going to do now, and I'm actually still a little over here, I'm going to trim this so it's right flush with it. I was looking at having some overhang, but that probably wasn't the best idea. So do what I say, not what I did. All right, here we go. Now we're going to lay this on top of here like this. So did you see me? I just turned those right sides together. And we're going to come over to the sewing machine and we're going to start right here and we're just going to sew this down. All right. Let's see here. Right on that edge. We're holding our breaths. So as you're sewing along, you're just going to sew a few stitches and then you just make sure that those edges stay lined up. And you can see I'm not quite 1/4 inch, and that's okay. For some reason, I'm not feeling real secure about being over on that edge. But it's okay to do hard things. We can do hard things. And not that this is hard, but it's something that's kind of not something I do a lot of. So see here where these like go completely different directions, you're just going to have to fit it in and make it behave. So we're just sewing a few stitches. Sewing a few stitches. And see how just by coaxing it, we're able to keep it right together and we're done. Okay, I did a little back stitch right there on that end and then we're gonna head right over to the ironing board. All right, let me go ahead and fix this so we can iron this nice and flat. I'm just gonna lay this on here. My seam is gonna wanna come up this way and that's all right. I'm just gonna press that. And it lays so nice. If you have any trouble with your seam laying nicely, you can just use some best press or something. See how nice that's looking? And it's that nice gentle curve. Seriously, I can't believe I did this and it's looking so good. This is looking pretty good. So sometimes it's just really good to get out of your comfort zone and do something different. All right, now what we got to do, I'm going to clear this off a little bit. And we're going to sew that top row on. But what I want to do first is I want to take this and I want to make sure that these edges are nice and straight and my top row is going to fit on there. So I'm lining this up along the edge of my quilt here. Make sure that I'm nice and straight. Got to find my, my rotary cutter. There we are. And then we're just going to cut straight up the side. Alrighty. And then over here, I'm just going to make sure this is straight too. I know I trimmed it a couple of times and it's looking really good. I'm just going to trim this little edge off right there. Not much at all. And then we're going to take this top piece, which should fit nicely up here, and we're just going to fold it right sides together and sew that on. And then this will complete the whole body of our quilt. And then we're ready to do the fun stuff. Well, it's all fun stuff, right? All righty, here we go. And I'm just sewing 1/4 inch. And I want to make sure this is going to line up. Now, if you ever get to the end of something and it looks like one side is going to be a little bigger, put that side on the bottom and the feed dogs will take in that extra fabric. Mine looks like it's going to be pretty close. So I'm just going to sew it along here. That's a great tip though for making things fit, because if you're, sometimes we have those little pieces that are just a little bit too long or too short, and the feed dogs take in more fabric on the bottom than the upper, then the presser foot doesn't, well, it doesn't take in any fabric, but those feed dogs will pull in fabric and so it makes it fit. So it's just a nice little tip there. All right. Now we're ready for our applique piece in the middle. And this is kind of fun to me because I wanted to do it with scissors and needles, but if you did baby things across there, this would be a darling baby quilt, really, really cute. So the first thing I'm going to do is we've made a cutout for you, not a cutout, a PDF file that has the pieces on it. And I'm going to darken them with a marker. So I'm just going to trace around this with a Sharpie marker and make sure that I can see through it. So when I cut it out, your pieces will come already reversed so that when you trace them on, they're facing the right direction. Now what we're going to do is we are going to iron our fabric, or trace this onto here first. Whoops, almost got ahead of myself. So I'm going to trace this onto here. And now you can see, now that I've traced it with the darker pen, you can see right through it, and we can easily see that to trace. Because sometimes these poor old eyes, you know, if you have a light box, that's great. But if you don't have a light box, always tracing with a dark marker helps you see that so much clearer. And then we got a circle here, and we got a circle here, and we've got our needle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to attach it to my fabric over here. That's the color of what I want to use. We're going to put this on the wrong side, just like this. And then I'm just going to press that on so it attaches. Oh, I got so much stuff up here on my desk today. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this up here and just run an iron over it real gently. This is that Heat N Bond Lite, and so you don't need, it doesn't take a ton of time. And then we're just going to cut those out. And you'll see that I didn't cut out the little tiny stitch. And that's because all this little extra over here is going to be whatever stitches I want. So that's just straight cutting, and I didn't feel the need to do that. All right, once you get your scissor and your needle cut out, then you're ready to cut out your stitches. And what I did with that, rather than cutting out these individual pieces, I just cut long strips like this, couple of them. Use the piece that's left over, and then you can get 2 or 3 of those and you can stack them up like this. And you'll notice my stitches are different lengths, so I'm just going to cut them like this. Now, if I were thinking ahead, I would have probably peeled this paper off first and then cut them all, because now I have to cut all these little bitty papers, which isn't hard, but again, it's just one more thing. So now you're ready to put it all together, and you get to be the designer now. You get to decide how it looks and what you're gonna do. And so before you iron anything on, you wanna lay it out. And I've got my needle here, and you can do it, you know, so the needle's up. It depends where your stitches are gonna go, how it's gonna work. You wanna make sure that you leave 1/4 of an inch here on the edges, because that's gonna be your seam. And then you just kind of want to lay these out here and see how your stitches are going to go. And honestly, I did a couple of these and everyone was different. Every quilt just had a different feel to it. And sometimes I followed the curve, and sometimes I did some loop-de-loops. So you get to do whatever you want. And once you get something that you like, you're just going to peel the paper off and press it on. Once you press it on, it's on there. It's going to be permanent. And then you can either straight stitch around the edge or do a buttonhole stitch. On these little papers, I just kind of sewed a straight stitch kind of down the middle on those. This is not something I'm intending to wash a lot, but even so, there is going to be a lot of quilting stitches on there. And then you're just going to cut 4.5 inch strips for your outer border. So of course I'm using this for my sewing room, gonna hang it right on the wall. And we hope you enjoyed this tutorial on our Little Stitches quilt from the Missouri Star Quilt Company.